From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.
Battlefield to the boardroom. This is Dog Tags to Ownership, the podcast where veterans share their journeys from serving our nation to leading in business. Hear inspiring stories of grit, growth, and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives those who've served to succeed. Tune in and take the first step toward your own mission in entrepreneurship.
Military One Percenters, welcome to Dog Tags to Ownership, where once a week we interview veterans who charted a path towards entrepreneurship. Our goals are to share resources, advice, and success stories about starting a business, discuss strategies for building financial independence and creating your own path, and most importantly, build a community to support each other through the challenges of transitioning from service life to civilian ownership. Today, we're extremely excited to introduce our guest to the show, Chris Wallingford, a U.S. Army veteran and owner of the Meta 4 Group, a Kansas City-based national commercial construction staffing company. Chris, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm well. Julie and Matt, thank you for having me.
And then one thing I forgot to, or I left out in your introduction, is that you are also a huge member of the American Legion. You play a big part in the Parkville American Legion, also in your district, and then for the states. I know we'll get in a little bit of that, but that's another great thing that you do as well for our veteran community. But to start off today, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your military service?
Yeah, so I'm a lifelong resident of the county that I live in now, a northern suburb of Kansas City. Grew up in the Leavenworth area, and so always exposed to the Army. My dad and my grandpa were both sailors, which makes me the Jimmy Buffett song, son of a sailor. And I disappointed them both and went to Kansas instead of Missouri and joined the Army instead of the Navy. Did the National Guard in college. And when I finished college, I had $50,000 in debt, and the Army had the guaranteed student loan repayment plan. And the recruiter told me he could send me to airborne school and then send me to Hawaii. And I was 22, and that sounded fabulous. So went to the infantry, did several jobs at Schofield Barracks, kind of bounced around a little bit. And then after about 4.5, 5 years, my wife at the time didn't want to be an Army wife anymore. So I got off active duty and came back to the Kansas Guard and was a police officer in Leavenworth, Kansas for a long time. I finished in the Kansas Guard. I'd been a recruiter for a while there. And so about 15 years ago, I didn't want to be a policeman because people shot at me. And it's not that I'm opposed to being shot at. I just wasn't making enough to be shot at. So I got a job working for a construction staffing company out of Texas. And then about 10 years ago, I went to a startup and we grew it from about 25,000 a week to about 380,000 a week, and left there 2 years ago and we started our own company. So now we are a national commercial construction staffing company doing temp and temp to hire all over the country.
So in that, you said you went to Kansas. From Kansas, you joined the military. You're in the military for a while, and then you went to the National Guard. And then now, after working with some other companies, you've opened your own company. Is there anything, like when you opened your own company, was there any of the military benefits or anything that you utilized to help you open your own company? And then I'm assuming it's labeled as a veteran-owned company. And how does that help you?
So both good questions. So again, I was a recruiter, and the National Guard sent me to the National Guard Bureau Recruiting School in Arkansas, which did a great job of teaching me how to talk to people, and all different kinds of people. So in my normal day, I can be talking to a field employee that makes $20 an hour, or I can be talking to the CEO of $1 billion company. And so both being in the Army and then specifically being a recruiter taught me how to do those things. And it certainly taught me how to organize my day and plan better. And one of the things that I've talked to about sales guys forever, and I'll digress a little bit, but we hire sales guys that are straight out of college. They're super smart and they know how to make charts and graphs, but sometimes they're too literal and they can't do this. They can't just have a conversation with people. So one of the things that we talk about is commander's intent. And so when you're trying to tell a 23-year-old who just got his business degree from KU or someplace about commander's intent, it gives them the freedom to do things that are outside of their specific instructions. And I think sometimes leaders forget to do that. I think we say, I want you to go do this, and here's all the steps I want you to take. But if you hire smart kids or smart people, you should be able to give them a 3-level up commander's intent and say, just go do this and come back to me if you need more guidance. So those things have certainly aided my ability to be successful in what we do.
And I'm sure working with second lieutenants in the military, prepares you.
Matt, we all laugh about that, but it's a true thing. I mean, now at 53, you're talking to these young kids who are smart and they're probably smarter than me, but they don't have the life experience. And so that relationship is the same. If you think about a squad leader or a platoon sergeant who maybe got an 80 on his ASFAB and has never been to college, but he has real life experience, compared to that new lieutenant who just graduated with a chemistry degree from KU, what does he know about what he's doing? Sometimes it's hard, even at this point in my career, to communicate with those guys because they're so singular of focused and they think that the way they learned in their business 300 class is the correct way to do things. And the right kids get that it's a basis for what I do.
As far as transitioning out of the military, because your path wasn't necessarily as clear cut as mine, where I did 21 years active duty and then I went through transition assistance and had a long time to think about what I was going to do next. Can you kind of talk about your decision to transition from active to guard and guard out?
My wife at the time made it very clear that she didn't want to be an Army wife anymore. And my grandmother, great story, my grandmother had been a cop in Platte County where we lived for 30 years. And the sheriff was my godfather. And I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. Like at that point, I had a kid, I have a wife. Like, what am I going to do? And so I called the sheriff and said, hey, I'm getting out of the Army. Would you hire me? And he said, of course. So at the time, the Army would let you get out up to 3 months early if you were going to some education stuff. So I applied for and got accepted to the Law Enforcement Academy at Missouri Western. And so I transitioned. I got out in like June and the academy started in July, and I did an ETS till kind of mid-September. And then that ETS took me directly into the National Guard at HHC 35th Infantry Division there at the front gate of Fort Leavenworth. And someday I'll tell you the horror stories of transitioning from a light infantry unit to a National Guard unit. I don't have PTSD from anything except that. But that was the transition. And it was truly motivated by keeping my family together and trying to make my spouse happy. In her defense, we were stationed kind of Oconus and we had a kid and our op tempo was super high. We were deployed all the time. And so she really didn't sign up to be a single mom. And effectually, she was a single mom most of the time. I'm not blaming her or saying, gosh, she was terrible. Just where she was at in life.
Chris, you own Metaphor Group, which is a national commercial construction staffing company. Can you tell our listeners and followers what that is?
Yeah. So let's say you owned, and I'll just use a simple example because remember I was in the infantry and simple examples are all we have. Let's say you own Julie's Electric and you have 10 electricians. You can only do the work that 10 electricians can do. So if you're all busy and someone comes and says, hey, Julie, I've got a project, you either have to say no, which sucks, or you have to say, can you wait 2 months till I'm not busy? Or you can go hire people, or you can call us. So you call us and you say, hey, Chris, I have this project and I need 5 electricians in Tulsa for 6 weeks. We go out and find those guys, vet them, hire them. They are employed by me, but they work for you and you get an invoice every week. And when you're done with them, you send them back to me. If you don't like them, you send them back to me. So it is effectively leased labor. It's just for a very kind of specific niche of commercial construction.
Yeah, because I mean, the commonly known perhaps is just like temp, right? Like a temp employee.
Yeah.
I guess that's common lexicon, but this is a specific
Yes, and we don't like day labor. We don't do guys that worked at Target or Walmart last week. So we hire, even our construction labor guys have to have a year of commercial construction. So you're not getting somebody who was a sandwich artist yesterday. You're getting people who are really construction workers, and they get paid every week like a construction or like a worker, and they have full benefits and retirement and all the same things that are regular. So we just get a higher level of people because we're treating them like real construction workers and not day labor stuff.
What's the average time for a job, I guess? Is it weeks or months or
It's generally months. I'm doing a project at Fort Hood right now that's probably a 4-month project. And then we also allow our customers to hire our guys after about 400 hours. So after about 400 hours, we've kind of gotten our pound of flesh out of them. And it allows our customers to test drive a guy before they make a commitment. Excuse me, they don't have to take the guys. So they can work a guy for a year and leave him on my books. But after 400 hours, if you like Jimmy likes you, you can have him at no additional fee. And then we look at that as kind of a walking sandwich board for us. So if I send Jimmy to work for Julie's Electric and she loves him and she hires him, next time she needs guys, she's going to say, well, gosh, we got Jimmy from Chris. So let's call Chris again because that one worked out really well. And we probably lead the industry in that number. Some of the bigger companies are 1,000 hours or 6 months or something. We want you to hire our guys. And it also allows us to hire better guys because if I can say we're selling the dream a little bit, right? Just like that Army recruiter who's selling the dream, we can say, hey, we're going to put you out with Julie's Electric. And if you do a great job, then in 2.5 months, she's going to bring you on full time. You're going to be a member of her team. So it allows us to recruit better candidates because we're giving them a better deal.
What led you to establishing your company? What was the reason that you wanted to establish Metaphor Group?
So I was working for a startup that we built into a very successful company, was making a lot of money, more money than honestly I ever thought that I would ever make in my life. But I had some philosophical differences with the ownership group, and I couldn't sleep. Sometimes they put me in positions that made me not like myself very much. And so I went to my wife, who's a saint, and said, hey, I don't like this. She said, then quit. And I said, well, I make too much money to quit. So she calls it golden handcuffs. I was making so much money that I just had to swallow it, just say, it'll be fine. And one day I couldn't take it anymore. So I just said, hey, I'm quitting. It was a huge leap of faith, and we took a $250,000 pay cut. But we have weathered the storm, and our last 8 weeks have been record weeks successively, and we are kind of blowing through the benchmarks that we set for ourselves.
So when you decided to set up your company, did you bootstrap your company to set it up, or did you take out any types of loans? And then I guess I'm assuming, right, is just you to begin with. And then did you start hiring on people? And what does your company look like today from when you began it 2 years ago?
So I have a super smart partner calls himself a reformed banker. So he is great with money and he likes making spreadsheets. I mean, that's not even a joke. Spreadsheets are his, the thing for him. And he likes managing all the things that I don't. He's probably not comfortable going into a construction office and saying, hey, this is what we do, but he likes managing all the back office stuff. We go to church together. Our wives are best friends. And so we have kind of an intimate trust, and we started the thing together. And we found a company out of Minneapolis called ESSG. And ESSG is a platform for staffing companies. And so we didn't have to have much money. We have some investors with a small amount, not a substantial amount, that kind of gave us some early operating money. But ESSG does all of the back office things. They have a CRM. They have all the workman's comp. They do all the taxes. They do all the payroll. And then we fund all of our invoices. Do you guys know about funding invoices? So there are companies out. We use a company in Kansas City, but they're all over. So if we go back to the Julie's Electric example, let's say Julie's invoice this Tuesday is $3,000. I immediately sell that invoice to this factoring company, and the next day they give me 90% of that money. So they give me $2,700. And that lets me make my payroll and gives me part of my profit. And then when my customer pays the factoring company, they keep somewhere between 1% and 3%, and then they give me the rest of that money back. So like right now our receivables are probably about $500,000, but I'm not floating any of that. The factoring company is floating it. They do all the collections, they do all the stuff. So the part that we want to do and the part that we think are in our core competencies are selling and recruiting, and having this combination of ESSG and the funding company make it so we don't have to do all that stuff. Somebody else is doing it. And they're doing it at such a fractional cost that it wouldn't even make sense for us to say, okay, we're going to go out and hire somebody to do payroll and taxes and compliance and insurance. Because since they do it at such a big scale, they can do it way cheaper than if we went in and did it ourselves. And they're experts at it. We're experts at selling and recruiting. So we kind of stay in our lane and they manage all the other lanes that we may not be good at.
So what does a day look like? And maybe what did a day look like 2 years ago when you were starting the company? And what does a day look like today for you as a owner?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I was calling all my old customers, right? I had a non-compete and I had to leave them alone for 365 days. So I literally was having remember me conversations. I had a huge customer that I loved to death cuss me out when I called. She basically said, "Where the F have you been?" Because she thought I just abandoned her, right? We were friends and colleagues, but I couldn't legally talk to her. So a lot of it was reestablishing some relationships that had been very trusting and profitable for both of us. But more of it was just digging. I mean, literally trying to make 50 calls a day, looking on Indeed in all the cities we wanted to be in, looking up companies that said they were hiring electricians, and then calling the company and saying who does the hiring, and being told we don't use staffing or we have a staffing company. So just a lot of banging. And then we started to make a little headway. And so then my son, Jackson, works for us. He was our third employee. He's a recruiter. So then he's trying to find the guys. So that was kind of how we started. Today is way different. Our day starts at 6. Our work day starts at about 6 o'clock in the morning. And it sounds weird, and it's not because I like getting up early, but a lot of our jobs start at 7 in the morning. I mean, construction jobs run from 7 to 3:30. And so if guys are going to call in sick, or their cat's sick, or they have a flat tire, they're going to call in at 5:30 or 6. And so the recruiter has to know that and then relay it to me. And then I have to relay it to Julie and say, gosh, Jimmy's not going to be there today because his cat's sick, which is a way better look than Julie calling me at 8:30 and saying, "Hey, where's Jimmy?" So that's kind of the start to every day. And then we are dedicating some time to reaching out to old customers, and then spending a couple hours a day prospecting for new customers. And then the end of our day is making sure that everybody who's working tomorrow knows where they're going to be and understands kind of what the expectation is for tomorrow. So that's kind of what and our next hire is a project manager. So we think that finding sales guys is hard, somebody who can have conversations, but a lot of my time, probably 50% of our sales guys' times, are managing customers. So we're going to kind of flip the model a little bit and say sales guys go out and find the customers. Project managers, or whatever the position is called, deals with the day-to-day good things and the day-to-day problems, because the talent, and this sounds conceited, but the talent is really in the sales guy, right? Being able to build relationships. So we want the sales guy to spend 80% of his time generating revenue, and a project manager spending 100% of their time managing expectations and managing customers.
So how many current permanent employees does Metaphor Group employ?
4, a whopping 4. And one of them isn't starting until next week. We have managed, and so what we've said is, one sales guy and one recruiter can manage about $40,000 a week. After that, the workload's too big and you need another one. We've blown past that, but we've been trying to be as fiscally conservative, and so we're carrying more load than probably we would if we had 10 employees. but we just wanted to get some money in the bank and some of the pressure off of us. And we're at that point now. So our next step, probably, we want to be in the Southeast and in the Southwest. So our next step is hiring sales guys in both of those regions. And right now I'm selling to everywhere. And we'd like to have somebody in Nashville or Northern Florida, South Georgia, and somebody in Texas or Phoenix. And so that's our next 6 months game plan.
So your company is a national commercial construction staffing company. How many states are you currently working in? And I know you said you want to expand to the Southeast and Southwest, but how many states are you working in and doing this with?
We're probably in 14 states and we've probably been in 20 states. So we're blessed to have some big national customers. The largest roofing company on the planet is my customer. So they have 57 office in every state. There's a big electric company out of Alpharetta, Georgia, that's all over the country. And so wherever they need people, we send people. But again, I'm it. Like I'm the sales guy. So I don't get to spend as much time prospecting because I'm managing big customers. So if we hire this project manager that's starting next week, and if we hire sales guys, they can spend more time doing the thing that kind of starts our revenue generation.
Yeah. And Chris, so how is that, I guess, scaling process going? If you can share, is it challenging? Is it uncomfortable? Or does it feel like it's a natural, like it's a time to do it?
We've kind of overweighted. I'm sure that's not a word, but we've waited longer than we should have because we wanted to make sure we didn't do it too quickly. You know, we have a good week or a good month and you go hire somebody and then you have a couple bad months and now we're telling some poor guy, hey, you know, the job that you came for, we can't afford it anymore. So we have been kind of overabundantly cautious, and we're at that point now. So the problem is a first year guy for us, a sales guy, will probably make 70 or 75 grand. So you can't get a seasoned sales guy for 75 grand. Those guys want 150. So you have to go out and find somebody who just has good chops and is willing to do the work and train them. But because we're still a startup and we still don't have, I can't guarantee somebody they're going to make 100.5. I mean, they certainly could, but I don't want somebody to quit a job and then come and work for me and not be able to pay their bills. That would be crushing for us.
You obviously had a background in this field. So what were some of the initial hurdles or challenges that you encountered, I guess, when you went from more of an employee in this field to the owner and operator of the business?
Well, I mean, just the expectations, right? Like, now if this thing fails, it's my fault. I've always been someplace where if something was failing, somebody else would step in and fix it, or I worked for somebody who was more knowledgeable than me or with more experience than me. I mean, now I'm it, right? I'm the end of the pointy end of the spear, as it were. So if this thing fails, it's my fault. And so that's probably the biggest pressure point for me. But again, and I'll talk about them again. The guys at ESSG, I didn't know how to do the back office stuff because I've never done it. I didn't know I couldn't get workman's comp. I mean, it'd take me a month to get workman's. I don't know how to do that. But because we found a great partner that specializes in that, it took a bunch of those pressures you're asking about off of us because I don't have to do it. Like I pay somebody a small amount and they do all the stuff that for me is hard.
No, that makes sense. And I know we've talked about this before, Julie, with other guests, but it's very much like a military philosophy of find the person that can do that particular thing better than I can and, farm it out. Like I don't want to be the commo specialist. I can barely use my microphone. But I'll find someone hopefully that can, fix my computer or do something, or the S1 that does the incredible administrative work, right? Like there's always those people, just finding what your strengths are, weaknesses, and kind of portioning that out.
No, if you took an infantry platoon and put them in a field kitchen and said feed the battalion, no one's eating, right? And that's how it would be for me. If you told me, hey Chris, you're in charge of payroll and you got to do the taxes and you got to make sure that we're being legally compliant, Michelle and I'd be selling our house. But we've found these people that do all the hard stuff for us, and I'm super proud of being in the infantry, and I'll be proud of it my whole life. But infantry guys think that everybody else, they're just here to support us, right? I mean, it's what we're taught. But if we didn't have those guys, life would suck. And I think that the same way about finding people in our world, in the business world, you got to find people that can do the things that you're not good at.
Yeah, and that's super important. Like you said, I think for every business owner or somebody that wants to get into entrepreneurship, to understand that is that we're not good at everything, but there are people out there that can and they can help your business. So, Chris, one thing I do want to transition to a little bit is another thing that you're very passionate about is the American Legion. Can you just talk about the American Legion and what the American Legion offers for our military members and veterans as they're looking to transition out of the military and what you do with the American Legion?
Yeah. So 3 years ago, my wife and I were building a house in Parkville, and we were in town one day walking through downtown, and we saw a bar and said, let's get a beer. And we walked in and we found out it was an American Legion bar. And through the conversation, somebody said, gosh, you're a veteran, you should join. And I had no idea what the Legion was. Like, I knew they were guys who wore funny hats and like sold pancakes on 4th of July. But we gave them our $35. I came to my first meeting and they said, hey, we need somebody to be a volunteer manager of this bar. You should do it. So first meeting, I become the bar manager. I miss a meeting. I come back to my second meeting and they say, hey, we're having elections and we nominated you for vice commander and no one's running against you. So 2 meetings, 2 positions. The misconception people have is that legions are Vietnam era guys who are sitting around telling, fake war stories and smoking cigarettes. It's just not that. Like, we have the largest VSO network in the country. Every post has a veteran service officer. The states have full-time veteran service officers. In every VA hospital in America, there's at least one American Legion VSO that can help you with benefits. Last year, our post gave $47,000 away to veterans and community charities. And it is a place where if you want somebody with similar experiences to talk to, there's probably someone here. I've made business contacts through the Legion. So it's really a way to give back and to stay involved in the community. And face it, like we all like hanging out with veterans. At least most of us do, right? And even if they're not people with similar experiences as us, they're still veterans and they still went through some of the same things. So none of us, I mean, you don't come to our Legion and hear, and we joked about it, but there I was knee deep in napalm. I mean, that conversation doesn't happen. We talk about kids and jobs and life experiences. And so it is just kind of taking a little part of your life and doing it with other veterans and then helping the community while you're doing it.
Yeah, and I think that message is so much more important now because of how much people are on their devices and
Yeah.
how much we don't socialize, and why I think some of the VFWs and the legions seem like a thing of the past that our parents participated in, or grandparents. So it's important. That was important. I think that you shared. Hey, it's not that, and it's more of a community gathering place.
And Matt, I'd be remiss to point out that anytime you see the president signing a bill that has to do with veterans, the Legion and or the VFW national commander is generally on the podium with them. So both organizations have huge lobbying arms and have a direct link to the chiefs of staff and congressmen and senators. So as one guy, if I write a letter saying you should do this to veterans, nobody cares. But if the largest veterans organization in the country says, we have all this voting power, please listen to us, those people in DC or in, Jefferson City, Missouri or wherever don't have a choice. So it gives us kind of some voting or some lobbying power.
And I think you mentioned it, Chris. Is it unique to the Parkville location about it being open to the public, or is that becoming more common with Legion?
No. So what we're finding is VFWs are a little more closed off to the public. And most legions, I was about a month ago, I was elected to the state executive committee in the Missouri Legion, and most legions are open to the public. And we have it's not the focus of our post, but we have a very active bar and rental space. And we do those things so veterans have a place to hang out, but really it's a fundraiser. So we're not out selling cookies or candy bars or asking for money at the grocery store. We have a bar that is a 501, and every penny we make at the bar goes back out the door to veterans or to community organizations. So it really, it may look like it's just a bunch of old guys sitting around drinking cheap beer. We were able to, Veterans Community Project is a great Kansas City based veterans nonprofit. If you haven't looked it up, if you haven't seen it, it's vcp.org. Last year we were able to stroke a check for 10 grand, which is what it costs to support a homeless veteran in their program for a year. So we sell $4 beers. Some veteran gets a place to live for a year, and I'll take that. I mean, why would you not do that?
And you can go there and drink and then go tell, your significant other that you are there supporting a good cause, right? I can hear my dad telling my mom that it was just that he was there.
Yes, but everything we do, we don't have any overhead, so we're just paying the community. And I think that most legions are like that, and they may be smaller or bigger, but it's mostly just veterans who maybe don't know they don't want to go work in a soup kitchen or something. So their way of serving is selling pancakes on Saturday morning, and that helps, right?
Yeah, I think that's super important, and I really just wanted you to be able to highlight that for our listeners and followers because I do think that VFW, American Legion, those are great places, like you mentioned, Chris, for our veterans and military members even to be able to go and have that camaraderie, but also give back to the community. Because I think a lot of us, no matter if you serve for 5 years, 10, 20, retired, whatever it may be, you still want that connection back to the community and to be able to give back to the community, and that's why a lot of us serve, is to be able to do that. So I think it's really important, and I really appreciate you highlighting that for us, and for our listeners and followers. But I guess going back into your business, one thing I did want to ask you, going from being an employee of a business to owning your own business, what is one thing that you most enjoy about doing that? And I guess then what is a challenge that you've had with owning your own business?
Yeah. So the thing that I enjoy the most is I get to be, I don't have to ask somebody else to make a decision. So we've all been employees or maybe even in the unit we served in, there was some glowingly obvious thing that if we do this, we'll be successful. But in the corporate world and in the military world, you have to run it up the chain, and maybe there's a committee or a command staff or somebody who has to look at it. In my business, I get to just say, gosh, it makes sense to me. And I'm the one with the biggest risks. Let's try it. Let's see if it works. So that's kind of my favorite thing. And a lot of times it works and sometimes it doesn't, but I get to decide. The hardest thing for me, honestly, is because I am the boss and is just self accountability. Sometimes I catch myself doom scrolling on my phone or, doing other stuff other when I should be working because there's no one standing over me saying, dude, you need to be doing this. So you really have to be self motivated, and you have to have a plan, and you have to say, like for me, I have to over organize because organization's not my best thing. So I have to put everything I'm supposed to do in my calendar, and I have to, even if it's I need to spend an hour today prospecting, I got to put it in my calendar on my phone. Otherwise, I'll find something else to do with that hour. So it's really probably self-motivation and organization.
Chris, what do you feel like you have more autonomy over decisions? And this is probably maybe an easy question, but yeah, do you feel like you have more autonomy or ownership over life now and decisions and your time and that sort of thing as a business owner?
Yeah, for sure. And it's a double-edged sword because I do have more autonomy. And if I want to get up every morning and go play golf, I I have the freedom to do that. But it's costing me money, right? If I'm doing those things, I'm not being as productive as I should be. We're super blessed though because of technology. As long as I have my phone, I can be working. One of our new neighbors asked me to play golf this morning, and we went and played 9 holes, but I probably took four phone calls and responded to 3 emails. So as long as I have my cell phone, I can be working. But there's certainly more autonomy. But the trade-off is you just have to be responsible with that, because I'd love to just get up every morning and go play golf, but and no one would say anything to me except probably my wife and my banker, right? Like they would notice.
Yeah, I know since we live in the same subdivision and I saw you the other day and I could tell you were in like work zone with the cell
Yeah.
phone versus like when I've chatted with you before, you could tell like, you were working.
And that's one of the things though that I found about it. It may just be this business. I've never owned another kind of business, but we don't have the If you work for a regular company, maybe you work 8 to 4 and you go home and that's it. My customers call me at 6:15 in the morning, or they call me at 9 o'clock at night, and I could choose not to take those calls. But if I don't take the calls, my competitor will take the calls, right? And maybe when they call me at 9 o'clock at night, they're saying they need 2 more guys tomorrow. And so if I just say, gosh, it's 9 o'clock, I'm not taking this call, that's money coming out of my pockets. Do have more autonomy, at least in this space. We don't have the option of not, of saying, gosh, it's 4:30, I'm done. You can't. And in finding employees, that's hard. I'll touch on this really quickly. At our old company, and certainly in what we're doing now, we have a different expectation. We expect you to answer your phone at 6 o'clock in the morning, but we also expect that if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you don't have anything to do and you want to go play golf or go to your kids' school, then you go do that, because we know you're going to take calls at 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock in the morning. So we're not as strict with, we got to punch in and punch out on the clock, because our expectation is different. But when you have that, you also have to hire grown-ups, because you have to hire people that you trust to do that. That you have to hire people that, if they leave at 1 o'clock on Friday because they want to go to the lake, I don't want them to come ask me. I want you to go to the freaking lake. But if your phone rings at 5:30, on Thursday afternoon, I also want you to take that. And so you have to hire a grown up, and somebody who you trust, because if not, they won't take those calls and they'll take advantage of the freedom you give them.
Chris, what would be some advice that you would give to someone who's currently serving or about to transition or has transitioned out that wants to get into entrepreneurship? What would be some advice that you could give them?
A couple things. First of all, find people that can mentor you. And I just believe there are people in every industry who want to see other people do well. I have a couple of guys who own big staffing companies who will have coffee with me or take my call, and I said, gosh, what the heck? What do I do here? And they'll help me, because I'm not smart enough to do this by myself on an island. It doesn't make sense. And then, and this sounds like a cliche, but find something you like to do. I love doing this, and so it doesn't feel like work to me. It's a thing that I enjoy doing that pays me money. And so I think if you give me two things, find a mentor or find a group. Almost every profession has professional groups that you can join and bounce ideas off of, because you may be the smartest person in the room, but you're not going to have every idea or every answer. So I guess those are my things.
Chris, what is the next 5 to 10 years? If that's too far out, what does the next 2 to 3 years look like for your company?
Yeah, so probably 3 years, we would like to have salespeople in probably clusters of every 5 states. So divide the country into 5 states, or into regions of 5 states, and have a sales guy in each of those, and then a recruiting staff to support that. Our business allows you to do it because a sales guy doesn't cost that much. It's a decent salary and lots of commissions. So you hire a sales guy. As soon as he's profitable, then you just go hire another sales guy. So that's probably where we'd like to be, kind of clusters of 5 states. And with technology and how easy travel is now, the old model was you got to have 3 or 4 sales guys in every city, but nobody does that. The three of us are in wildly different places, and we can do business just like this. So that's probably where we want to be. And then at 53, in 10 years, I would like my son and my business partner's son to be mailing us checks every month. Truthfully, that's our plan. It is a dream as a man, to have your son work for you and then be able at some point to say, hey buddy, here's this thing, and make sure the check, cashes every month. So that's where we'd like to be in 10 years.
I was wondering if it was, pina coladas on a beach or bourbons somewhere in a bar.
Key West is really, if we can get to South Florida, that's 100% where I'm going.
I mean, the winters here are beautiful. I don't know why you'd want to go down to Key West.
They're not beautiful.
He's saying that
They're
because he
not.
hasn't experienced one yet, or hasn't experienced one in a long time.
In a minute.
Chris, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Was there anything before we get into our final 2 questions that we didn't ask you that you would like to talk about before I turn it over to Matt?
I'm going to say something that shouldn't be offensive, but one of the things I think that you have to have core values, and what I don't want to, I would never argue about somebody else's core values. But Joe and I, my business partner and I, have a Christian company, and we're convicted to do that, and we lead with that. We tell our customers we're a Christian-based company, and we don't. It's not to brag; it's because we want them to know and expect to be treated the way that Christian men should treat people. And we treat our employees like that. And we treat our customers, we treat everyone like that. And I'm not, I know everyone's not a Christian, but I think you have to have internal core values and then lead with those core values and hold each other accountable to those core values. And it's important to us. I mean, truly, it's the most important thing. And we believe, and I don't mean to be preachy, but we believe if we're obedient to God and the core values that he gives us, that we'll be successful, and it's working for us right now. So that's the thing for us, the thing that I'm happy to share.
And I think, and Julie, that's not unlike other guests that we've had on, right? We've had several come on here that are extremely values based, and lead their companies like that, and choose customers that have similar values that they have too, right?
And I think, Chris, just to go on that point, I think that's all ingrained into veterans because we all have our core values from being in the military, whether you're in the Army, the Navy, Marine Corps, whatever it may be. We have those core values ingrained into us, and a lot of those things are the same. So I think that's a great point that you bring up and what you all provide and how you take those values, your faith-based values, Christian-based values, and lead that with your company. Because I think that's important for veterans who want to get into entrepreneurship, because a lot of us do use those values as we build businesses. So
Yeah.
Matt, I'll turn it over to you.
So my question has nothing to do with my parents being your neighbor. It's that I listen to a lot of podcasts that are real estate focused or read books that are real estate focused because that's my passion. What would you recommend folks listen to, read, download an audiobook? Is there anything that was impactful for you and the journey that you're on that you'd recommend?
All right. So two-part answer. I know I look like a big burly guy, and I was a SWAT cop and in the infantry, but I like watching things that make me cry. It's kind of the thing that I inflict on myself. Like if I'm doom scrolling, I find like some video of a kid walking for the first time, or like, do you guys watch those coming home videos where like dad's been gone for 14 months and he comes to a football game? I have some weird fascination with those. But for me, I want to listen to people who are smarter than me talk about how they become successful. And I don't care what field it is because we're all business people. So I want to hear what people struggled with, so I know I'm not the only person who struggled, or what their aha moment was, because I think we can learn from those things. So for pleasure, I want to watch things that make me cry, and to learn things, I want to listen to people smarter than me tell me how they, not just in business, but or in life or in marriage or in parenting. I just want more input so that I can figure out what I should do.
Over to you, Julie.
Our final question for every episode. Admiral William McRaven authored the book Make Your Bed, Little Things That Can Change Your Life and Maybe the World. So do you make your bed every morning?
All right, listen to this. I want to show you guys a text message, and I love this. I normally don't make my bed every morning because usually there's a dog in it. But this morning, because I had seen this question, I'm going to show you this, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I made my bed, and as I was golfing, my wife saw that I had made my bed. You probably can't see it. She tried to call me, and then she sent me a thank you with 2 exclamation points. So the feedback, I'm a feedback guy. The feedback was that if I take 2 minutes to make my bed, it makes my wife happy, so happy that she calls me just to tell me thank you and sends me a text message. So now I'm going to start making my bed because I need all the points I can get. And if it's that simple to get some extra points, I'm totally down.
Just going to say you're welcome.
Right.
Dog Tags to Ownership is now helping marriages. So I appreciate that for you letting us know that. So continue to make your bed so that you can have a joyful marriage every day.
It was fabulous. And Michelle, thanks you also.
Yes.
Yeah, Chris, just want to close out by saying thanks for taking the time. I know we tried to lure you onto the podcast when Julie was in town a few weeks ago visiting, and I'm so glad that we were able to make the schedules work out today and have you on here. You're extremely down to earth, humble, and really provided some sage advice to our listeners.
Military one percenters, whether you're brainstorming your first business idea, already running a company, or just curious about where to start, Dog Tags to Ownership is the place for you. Please hit that subscribe button to receive all new episodes. Also, if you know someone who has turned their dog tags into ownership, drop us a DM on social media or tag someone. We are always looking for new guests to bring onto the podcast. And as always, Military one percenters, thank you for your service. Let's continue this journey and working together to write our next chapter. Until next week, keep pushing to turn those dog tags into ownership.
From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building trains with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the pride.